Hello everyone, welcome to level 2 of NLG. My name is Isabella and I will be your instructor for today. So just double check that the audio is okay. All right, so I think that everyone can hear me nice and clear. Let's have a look. Okay, so this is level 2, and so that means that you must have completed your level 1 class in order to participate in level 2. That's one thing. And then, of course, you should have received all of your level 1 energy activation in order to join this class. If you are new here, if this is your first class, meaning that you have never completed an energy class before, then make sure to wait until the next schedule for level 1. And you need to complete level 1 first in order for you to proceed to level 2. So the structure of level 2 is very similar to that of level 1. We will have theory. So basically, I'll give you some more information as well as examples, etc., for you to understand more about this method. And then after that, I will activate you for the level 2 energy frequency. And then after that, of course, we will talk about the formulas that you will then use, both for yourself as well as for other people to assist them as needed. And to not miss out on any of our events, classes, announcements, make sure to follow us on Facebook and YouTube at NLG Energy University. And just so we're very, very clear that this is level 2 class, so of course it is for level 2 participants. Those of you who have completed level 1 before and you have completed all of your energy activation, then you're welcome to tune into this class. Those of you who have completed level 2 before and you're still currently in level 2, you haven't proceed to a higher class level, then you're also welcome to tune into this class here. Those of you who have not participated in any classes before, or those of you who are in level 3, 4, or 5, you're still welcome to tune into the content of this class, but when it comes to the energy activation, unfortunately, you're not eligible to receive that. So just make sure that we understand exactly what it is that we're doing here. So before we start this session off, I would like to send everyone healing energy support so that we can have a fresh start to our class. Okay, so that will go for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I will go ahead and set my timer. And what you would do is basically you would keep your eyes open, you will look at me, one more so my forehead, and then you will visualize energy going from my forehead going into yours, and then just let that absorb into your body, let it flow throughout your body until my alarm rings, and I'll let you know when it's time's up. So I'll go ahead now and transmit healing energy to everyone. And of course, I will have my eyes closed the entire time while you have your eyes open the entire time so that you can look at my forehead. All right, so let's get started. This is healing energy transmission. It is not energy activation. They're completely two different things. With the level 2 energy activation, I will activate you near the end of this class. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and receive this healing energy. Okay, so we have completed the healing energy transmission support. And now I'd like to just probably give you some more information, some really basic information before we start today's session. So for those of you, of course, who have completed level 1, and perhaps, for those of you who have been practicing, then that's really, really good. But for those of you who perhaps has been a little bit busy, you haven't really set out a schedule to practice. And so if you come into this level 2, the question is, can you complete this level 2 when you haven't been practicing? So the answer to that is that if you haven't been practicing your level 1 formula every day, then you can still participate in this level 2. However, of course, as I've already explained extensively in level 1, remember the chicken and the egg example. So it's all about that consistency when you practice. It's about the quality of your practice. And so if you haven't been practicing, that's your decision, and that's fine, in the sense that it's the decision that you make. But when it comes to the actual effectiveness of this method, then of course, if you haven't been practicing, you would not have experienced this energy as well as the transformation that it will have for you and your body, for the condition that you have, etc. And so when it comes to your practice, is such an important thing. But of course, it's really is your own decision to make in terms of how you're going to do that. The consistency of your practice really depends on you. And so another really important point to make here is, of course, this is a really honest, really genuine learning process. So you really need to pay your attention. And whether you pay attention or not during class, that's also your decision. Whether you practice the formulas or not, that's really your decision. And if you're being honest about receiving or not receiving an energy activation in order to proceed to another class, that's also your decision, because this is your own journey. We're here as instructor to support you along the way, and of course to activate you for the required energy frequency. But we're not going to be there to supervise you all the way. It is really is your own journey when it comes to this method. And we do what we can to support. And we make sure that we tell you the information that you need to know. But other than that, it's really self-control, lots of self-control, and building your own schedule to practice, and finding that passion, understanding why is so important for you to practice. And so that's why we say that after the activation, basically it is your own journey, your own progress. And if you put in the work and you practice according to the instruction, as well as meeting all of the core elements of NLG, then you should be fine, and you will certainly see the transformation that we've been talking about. But if you listen to everything that we share with you, and then you decide that you're going to improvise, you're going to do it your own way, then of course it's not going to be correct for this method. Okay. Now, for them, some of you, you may notice that when you practice, or when you perhaps make a transition from, let's say, level 1 to level 2, or a high class level later on, that your condition may seem a little bit more apparent, in the sense that you may feel a little bit more pain. For example, if you have a condition and you complete at level 1, and then now you're proceeding to level 2, and after you receive the energy activation of level 2, you might feel a little bit more painful, like in your ailing areas, for maybe a couple of days or maybe a week, but that shouldn't escalate. It should actually, you will feel it at the start, and then it will gradually alleviate itself. Okay, so that means that basically the cells in your body matching up with this new energy frequency, a higher energy frequency, and they're working really hard to basically give support to wherever it is that's hurting you. And so that should disappear after a few days as you keep practicing. And particularly if you have been practicing consistently, then that should certainly help. Whereas if you've been practicing and then you don't, and then sometimes you find reasons as to why you can't practice, etc., etc. That's not going to work very well for you. So just make sure that when you come into this method, consistency is really important, accuracy is really important, and make sure that you practice according to the formulas. How it instructs you is really, really important. NLG, it's its own method. And of course, it may not be like other methods. So when you come in, do look to understand it and explore it. And certainly at this foundation level, it's really important to not improvise, to certainly just follow the instruction as it is. And even for level 5 participants like us, we don't improvise. We really don't improvise. We do it according to the formulas. It's really important to make sure that you know what it is that you're doing with this energy. That's really, really important. Okay, so now let's dive into today's class content. Of course, level 2 content is a little bit similar to that of level 1, but we will certainly talk about more, I guess, in-depth examples and really, really relevant examples that we experience in our daily life. We will certainly talk about the formulas. There will be more formulas for you to utilize, so it's really exciting. And then, of course, we'll receive the level 2 energy activation. So let me share my screen here so that everyone can see. So we'll just have a little bit of a reminder about these logos, okay? Because these logos are really important. Really, really important. So remember that the cosmic divine light logo, which is the one on the left-hand side here, represent love and light that embraces all being. And it provided, well, thanks to Mr. Lays, was able to decode it. We're now able to utilize the lessons, the knowledge, the wisdom for all of us to thrive. And it all comes from this cosmic divine light logo or pattern, or at the end of the day, it's an energy source that we're talking about. And that will enable us to turn it into actual, sort of more visible, easier to understand lessons or projects that you can then see, that you are then instructed here at the NLG University, where we'll also look to build an ascended civilization. And when we're able to turn from basically energy to projects, a theory to practice, and we get to learn about it in a lot of details, then we're able to build what we call a loving home. And this is something that's very long lasting that every one of us wish to have. But in reality, when we look at even ourselves, as well as, for example, our friends, the people that we know, people in society, the majority of us, we look to have, we wish to have a loving home, but then a lot of the time that remains as a wish or something that we still working towards. We haven't really get there yet. Okay, so then gradually what we will do is we want to find a techniques to live and build an ascended civilization, as I mentioned earlier. This is to live with genuine gratitude, knowing how to express our gratitude, not being mistaken with any other things, and not having contradictory mindsets, but they're not being able to realize that. So we're going to understand this genuine expression of gratitude that we should have. And it has a really amazing connection between us and every other beings from an energy perspective. And also that would create peace and understanding and love for everyone. And of course, we cannot live a life without any discipline, without any direction. We do need that, and we need to have this guidance, this energy to make sure that we head down the right path. And well, not necessarily the right path, because that can be controversial when I talk about the right path. But I guess a more accurate way of describing it would be an effective pathway in terms of how we go about living our life. So that's a more accurate description of it. So gradually, what we would do is basically we'll explore this energy source, we'll explore the formulas that were given. And when it comes to the formulas, please don't change it, don't improvise it according to your own preference. It's not about meeting your own preference. These formulas has been standardized according to Mr. Lei, our founder. And so please follow the formulas as we provide you. And particularly at level 1 and 2 is really important to understand this. Okay, so let's talk about the 3 challenges. The 3 challenges for us humanity. So the 3 challenges, as we can see here, is we have already talked about the need to maintain and practice the 5 forms of love and morality in order to tackle with these problems. So remember that even when you're activated, even when you have this energy to apply, but then for some reason, if you decide that you don't want to practice love and morality anymore, then of course it won't work. Even if you're a level 1 participant, level 2 participant, or even level 5 participant, and you come in, you receive the activation, but then in your head, you're thinking, maybe you don't even express it verbally to other people, but maybe in your head, you're thinking, you know what, I don't want to practice this love and morality anymore. This is no use to me, and I do not wish to associate myself with it. Then that's when you won't be able to use this energy anymore. Okay, because basically these are the core elements of this method. So that's why some people, when they come in and then they mistakenly think that they can just receive the activation and then they can just receive healing energy from Mr. Lei on a daily basis, and then not actually practicing love and morality. Maybe they can get some energy, but it's very, very limited compared to other people coming in with a really genuine interest to learn. And then when they realize the need to change and they do that, and their condition actually improve a lot quicker. So that's the tip for you when you come into this method. And even though we point this out to you, that is the importance of these core elements of energy, love and moral values, we really need to ask ourselves, so how many of us can actually do that? And if you do, what is the percentage of you being able to do that every single day? So for example, let's think about the time when you finish your level 1, or maybe from the time that you first completed your NLG level 1 class. Okay, so from there, thinking about from there all the way until now, what have you done differently to show love to yourself and your family? Remember that at level 1, we try to work on self-love and love for family. Okay, and so what have you done differently during that time? It could be maybe within the last week, or it could be within the last months, or for some of you, because you've completed level 1 and 2 many, many times, and I'm aware of that. And so it could be in the last year or so. So what have you done differently? So this is once again, a really honest space for you to consider that. Okay, don't necessarily have to tell us about that, but it's a good time to reflect on things that you're able to do. And perhaps the things that now, when you think back about it, you could have done it differently. So now, some people, and this is why it's so different, this is why people's experience actually varies. Even though some people have amazing transformation and then others very little, very few, and really slow progress, this is what makes the difference. So some people, even though their conditions are not that severe, they mistakenly think that they can just come in, get the activation for the sake of receiving it. And then they rely on Mr. Lay's or other NLP participants' healing support. And then they do very little in terms of practicing for themselves. So they actually don't practice the stem cell stimulation formula or self-healing, and certainly they continue to live with the old habits, the behaviors that they're supposed to change. And so in that sense, they actually not practicing love and moral values. So even when their condition is not that severe, it takes them a lot more time to actually see the transformation, and they would only see major transformation when they decide to change altogether. Okay. And in contrast, some people with really severe condition, and then they come in, they understand exactly what this energy is about and the ways in which they can make use of this energy. And so they regulate themselves accordingly. And then afterwards, they're able to feel those improvements very clearly. So that's why I said that it's really your own journey. It's about your awareness. It's about being very proactive in your own practice. And of course, this is for you, okay? Because we don't actually, when it comes to your own improvements, we're not going to be there to supervise you. And certainly we do not force you to have to practice. We do not force you to have to do anything. We present you with information, and then whether you do it or not, it's really your own decision. And remember that when you decide whether to do it or not, to practice or not, to being genuine about this whole process or not, remember that it's not just about yourself. It's the cells in your body, the stem cells in your body, that's really, really important. So they're the one who needs to have this energy so that they can operate, they can function properly. Okay. Now, before we didn't know that, but now we know and we understand that this energy source is the mutual language between us and the cells in your body. So certainly now that you know that, the decision is it's yours to make. And at the start, when you're still new to this method, of course, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging, I guess, to get started. But that's the same as everything else. Once you get started and you feel that energy within you, you probably don't want to go back to the old ways of doing things, because let's say when you're in pain, right? Or when you need help, and then when you can actually support yourself, you can actually do something for yourself immediately at that moment. When you go through it, then you would understand it, because it actually happens to a lot of energy participants, because they get to support themselves. They get to actively support themselves, okay? Not having to sort of wait, and they can actually have a way in which they can be a part of that, and it is effective. So that's why they continue to practice this method. It's very much like before that you don't have any Wi-Fi, and then eventually you have one, right? Eventually you get to experience what Wi-Fi is like. And then, of course, you enjoy that. And then let's say before you were on 3G, and now you're on 4G or even 5G. And once you experience that level, um, of course, you don't want to go back to, let's say, not having any Wi-Fi or data at all, because you've already experienced how convenient it is, how great it is to have access to the more, I guess, effective ways of doing things. Okay, so talking about very briefly about the brain, I actually show you these slices in level 1 already, but we're just going to go through it a little bit more. And so talking about the brains and the universe, and a lot of us, the most that we know about the brain is probably 10%. And our brain is very much like a mini universe. And so there's a lot about it that we don't know. There's a lot about it that we don't know about the universe as well. But now that we're using the brain, which all of us have that, so it's already a part of us, and we try to connect to the energy source of the universe. And we would do that by the +1 - 1 frequency. Now, I hope that in the future that there will be people who perhaps work in this field come in to explore these concepts, explore these study, not necessarily apply what they've already know about the universe, about the brain to this, but perhaps open up a whole different, I guess, areas of study or maybe disciplines or something like that. It is something that's worth studying because we show it in our practice. Okay, we're not scientists, and so of course, probably scientists, researchers, people who work in that fields would have a better way of describing it in scientific terms, but it's certainly it's more than the things that we already know. The things that we've already know is very little compared to the potential of this method. Okay, so now let's move on to the 5 forms of love. Because remember that in level 1, we worked on the first 2 forms of love, self-love and love for family. And now in level 2, we will actually expand that. Okay, so basically after level 1 and 2, you observe the improvements in your social life, in your daily life, in the relationship that you have with other people, as well as have a better way to take care of yourself, because it points to that self-love that we've been talking about. And that's very reasonable. That's easy to understand because you're basically learning to be a better version of yourself. So you're being kind to yourself as well as other people, right? And so that's what makes the difference, that really positive difference. So keep in mind that energy attraction that we talked about, what goes around comes around. And of course, you cannot get away with doing negative things to other people, particularly to other people. And of course, if you do positive things, then you get rewarded at the end, not necessarily in the same way, but it could be that you receive help from another person, or you get to have a really great opportunity. There's nothing, there's no such thing as luck. Okay, because everything happened for a reason is really to do with our own energy attraction. If we're able to attract the positive things, then we get to experience those positive things. And to attract those things, then we have to give in order for us to receive. So that is from an energy perspective. That is very, very clear. So another thing, it's not about trying to, when you do positive thing just for the sake of doing positive thing, as in deep down, you don't really mean it. but because perhaps you heard me saying that we should do positive things so that we get to enjoy positive things. And so you do it for the sake of doing it, but you don't mean it, right? Well, the thing is, you can't really calculate when you should get those positive rewards. Because what happened is we should just be nice and be kind to ourselves, to other people, without having to, ask for when should I get the reward in return. Because the thing is, your calculation of all of the things that you do, take into account your emotion, your intention, etc., will be calculated by the outer space civilization. And I've already explained to you what the outer space civilization is in level 1. If you need to, you can go back to revise that part. What we should do instead is we should all be kind and thankful for the things that are happening around us. Something that we need to learn to do that. And because the things around us happening nonstop, and when everything is fine, of course, we can say that we're loving, we're a very calm person. But then when something happened that we don't like, and particularly things that affects us, that bothers us directly, indirectly, we can, I guess, react in a very different way that doesn't reflect our claim that we are someone who knows about love and moral values. And the thing is, we're trying to give excuses a lot of the time. He started it first, so it's only fair that I would do this to him, right? But at the end of the day, it doesn't reflect that love and moral values that we've talked about in this energy method. And it doesn't reflect that consideration for energy attraction that we've been talking about. So it's not about giving an excuse. It's not about saying that, I have the rights to do this because, but it's more so about, okay, so now I encountered this situation or this person that's a little bit challenging. How am I going to respond to that so that I can keep my energy connection? I can stay in my +1, -1 frequency, and I can deal with this in a way so that it's fair. Okay, it's fair for both parties, and I don't necessarily need to say or do anything to hurt the other person to make them feel bad, because I've already feel bad. I know how horrible that is. So as a person, as an individual, I'm not going to do the same thing to another person just so I can satisfy my own ego. Okay, and so that's something that we need to certainly do. And remember that at level 2, we will now move on to the third forms of love, which is love for country. So that's why, perhaps when you say, well, why is it that I have to go to that extent of not responding in the normal way and having to be nice to other people? Well, because already in level 2, already we start to try to practice love for country. And love for country is something that is huge because there's so many people, right, within a country. And so your love need to expand. You can no longer keep it to yourself or your family alone. Now that you're expanding it to the country, your love needs to also be upgraded. And so that's why we need to forgive more. We need to understand more, and we need to empathize with people more. Okay? Because if your love is too little, then a small action or a word that is not accurate, that is hurtful, can really upset you. And for some of us, it can upset us for days. We keep thinking about it. But then if your love for yourself, for your family, for your country, and then ultimately when you get to level 3, that's when love for humanity and all living things comes in, are big enough for you to forgive, to understand, and to actually treasure everything around you, understanding that whatever happened is given to you. It's basically you attract those things to happen. Then you're more likely to work towards more positive things so that you can attract other positive things. Okay, it's not about being bitter. It's not about saying, it's just an unlucky day. We need to understand how these things happen in order for us to change it. If you've been feeling really, really unlucky, if things, negative things keep happening to you, you need to understand why it happened and understand that there's a way for you to turn that situation around, to both work on yourself and also to attract these amazing things to come. And that comes with practice, with knowing about the core elements of NLG as well as the +1 - 1 frequency. So talking about the +1 - 1 frequency for a bit. So this +1 - 1 frequency, as we've already talked about, this is really, really important. This is a frequency that you can have when you actually understand the core elements of love and morality. So basically, when you're in a negative state, you're being very angry, you're very bitter about something, or you resent something, you experience guilt, all of these, self-blame and things like that. What you're doing is actually you're distancing yourself from the +1 - 1 frequency. Okay. And as I've already said, it's not about blaming other people for the situation. It's not saying that, it's just an unlucky day for me, but it's about understanding that energy attraction, that connection that we have with other people as well as with the universe. And so in high class level, Mr. Lei will actually explain about this. And if you want to know more about this, certainly put in your question in our future classes so that Mr. Lei can answer them more thoroughly. Now, some people, when they come to NLG and they actually want to learn, like having a genuine interest to learn. And that way they match with the +1 - 1 frequency more easily compared to when someone comes in being very skeptical, being very nitpicking about the little details and the fact that they don't understand about something. Instead of asking, instead of being very curious to learn, they try to criticize it according to the things that they do know. But of course, the things that we do know, looking at our reality and our world as of now, if we have been doing things in the right way, then why are we finding ourselves in this situation worldwide where we're affected by the 3 challenges still, right? If we have been doing things correctly, and if we are so smart as a species, why are we basically we've driven ourselves to a point where all of us feel quite stuck within ourselves. We don't really know what to do, to ourselves, to the world, to the food that we eat, to the basic needs in our life that we cannot meet, and also to the people around us where everything now seems a lot more dramatic. And then we also have, situations in our society that we now feel like we have to accept it, but we don't really, because if you don't accept it, then that's being, not inclusive. But when you do, you don't really understand about it still. And then it turns once again into these really dramatic things. And so that's happened to a lot of different things in our life right now. And there's a need for us to, of course, explore a method that can support us. And that is to, first of all, doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter what situation you're in as an individual, we all strive to have the +1 - 1 frequency. Okay, because when you have this frequency, you can connect more strongly to this energy source. And when you have this energy source, you're able to support the cells in your body and enable healing process. So when you come in, being very skeptical, being very nitpicking, basically you're closing that door, that portal of energy on yourself. Okay, so this energy is, of course, for everyone. Whether you accept it or not, it's also your decision. And when you come in, you're very open-minded and you're interested to learn and you give it a good go, then you will know and you will feel actually for yourself the amazing things that it can do for you. All right, so I think that we're doing pretty well in terms of theory, and now I'd like to maybe we're going to move on to the formulas now. We have quite a few compared to level 1. So we'll go ahead and then we'll talk about the formulas so that I can have more time to explain it to you in terms of how you can actually practice it. All right, so you can have a look here. This is the stem cell stimulation frequency. This is very similar to that of level 1, but you can see here that in step 1, now that we're in level 2, so in step 1, you will see level 2 frequency band. Okay, and if you have been practicing your level 1 formulas, then you will know exactly how to practice this formula here. So basically, you will read the notes, okay? And don't worry about doing screenshots of this because I will send all of the formulas to our Telegram groups where it's very nice and clear for you to see. And I will later on show you the QR code to our Telegram groups as well. So have a look here, the notes, okay? And then the practice duration. This is according to your age, because this formula, you can only practice on yourself. You cannot stimulate other people's stem cells. They need to do it for themselves. So practice duration will be according to your age right here. And then once you start the timer, you will go from step 1. So you will recite all of the steps in your head. Basically, you read it silently in your head. You don't need to say it out loud. You don't have to mumble. You don't have to whisper it. You just read it in your head. Remember that we're directing energy according to our thoughts. We're using our brain to direct it. So step 1, receive cosmic divine light, new era energy, level 2 frequency band, stem cell stimulation frequency. Think about step 1 always as a request or a command. Gives you a really clear idea of what it is that you want to do, as well as the cells in your body in terms of what you want to do. Step 2, receive energy into the brain. Pay attention to this verb, everyone. Say receive, so this is exactly what you're going to do. And what it means is that you visualize energy from outer space entering the brain. So receive energy into the brain, receive first time, receive second time, receive third time. And of course, you need to wait 3 to 5 seconds in between each time you receive, okay, as instructed here. And then after that, step 3, send energy from the brain into the ERC. So the ERC is basically the energy reception center. If you've completed level 1, then you would know exactly what it is, and I will not explain too much about that anymore. So send first time, send second time, and send third time with 3 to 5 seconds of delay in between. And then step 4, continuously direct energy into the brain, that is from outer space entering the brain, to the ERC, and continue sending it from the ERC down the entire spine to the coccyx. Continuously support the energy, maintain the warmth for the entire spine to stimulate stem cells until alarm rings. Okay? So basically, this is the same as the level 1 formula. Very straightforward. Now, of course, it instructs you to keep your eyes open when you practice this formula. But of course, for those of you who perhaps have vision impairment, or you just have to close your eyes because you have a vision impairment, eye-related condition or something like that, then of course you can be quite flexible when it comes to if you have a very specific condition. Or you can reach out to us and double check with us on Telegram. Now, this is the self-healing frequency. Once again, very similar to that of the level 1. So basically, what you would do is you read the notes and then you read the practice duration. This is also for you to practice for yourself, because as the name suggests, it is self-healing. So after you start your timer, you start from step 1, receive cosmic divine new era NLG level 2 frequency band, self-healing frequency. Step 2, receive energy into the brain, receive first time, receive second time, receive third time. 3 to 5 seconds of delay in between. Step 3, send energy from the brain into the ERC. Send first time, send second time, send third time. 3 to 5 seconds of delay in between. And then step 4, continuously direct energy into the brain that is from outer space entering the brain. And continue to transmit it into the ERC right here. And let the warmth of energy spreads on its own until alarm rings. Okay, very straightforward, very similar to that of level 1. So probably if you've been practicing the level 1 self-healing, then there's nothing to worry about this. All right, this is the direct healing frequency. And this is this is a formula that you can use on other people. So when you read the notes, and please do read the notes before you practice it, and also the practice duration is according to the recipient's age, because you'll be applying it to another person. So it will not be your age, but the recipient's age. Okay. Now, of course, you will start your timer according to the duration here, and then you begin from step 1 all the way to step 4. And all the way until your alarm rings. Now, the only exception, the only different thing is for the age group of 0 to 3 years old. So from 0 to 3 years old, basically what you would do is you would start from step 1 and then step 2. And then as you get to step 3, that's when you will press your timer. Okay, and so because it's really, really short, it's only for 30 seconds to 1 minute. And so as you get to step 3, that's when you will start your timer for the age group of 0 to 3 years old, so that you can actually have time to send energy to the recipient, and then you're continuously directing it as instructed here. So that's the only exception where you get to start the formulas without starting the timer all the way until step 3. In step 3, as you get to step 3, that's where you'll start your timer. And then for every other age group from 4 years old and above, all the way to adults, you have to start your timer first, and then you begin from step 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4. Okay, so as the name suggests, this is direct healing. It requires you to be there physically with the recipient, because what you would do is you will place your 2 hands on the recipient's ERC like so. So this is the person's ERC here. And then this is your hand. Imagine that this is your hand placing on their ERC. And this is how you will give this direct healing. Now, please note that level 2 participants are not yet ready to support people with neurological diseases. While performing, the transmitter and the recipient keeps their eyes open and maintain a state of mindfulness. So this is something that you need to inform your recipient. The recipient visualizes the ailing areas, so basically where it's hurting them. If there are many, then just focus on the ERC and the entire spine. So this is also something that you need to inform the recipient as well. Let's say if they have a stomach ache and only a stomach ache, then you will tell them to visualize, really focus on their stomach where it's hurting. Whereas if, let's say, they have stomach ache and then their arms are sore, they have a headache, and then their legs are numb, if they have too many areas like that, then just tell them to focus on their own ERC and their own spine, the entire spine. Okay. Now, before supporting another person with serious illnesses, the transmitter must feel warmth for 5 minutes and 30 seconds during the practice of stem cell stimulation formula. It is not to say that you have to practice the stem cell stimulation formula before you give direct healing to another person. However, what it means is that because you will be practicing stem cell stimulation every day for yourself. So if you have been feeling that warmth for the entirety of the 5 minutes and 30 seconds, when you practice the stem cell stimulation formula on a daily basis, then you know that you're good to go, that you're good to support another person with serious illnesses. Okay? Now, because you do need to put your two hands on the person's ERC, then you need to inform them so that they know that that's something that you will do. And you can support the persons 1 time a day per person. And for those with severe condition, you can support them twice a day, 6 hours apart. Now, something about this is basically at level 2, you're able to start giving healing support to people outside of your family as well. So there's no longer that restriction. Okay, so you can support the people in your family on both sides of your family. If you're married, then you can also support your husband's family as well. And also, let's say, your friends, a colleague, a neighbor, or something like that, people outside of your family, you can also give them this support. However, it's always necessary to ask people before you give them this healing support. Ask them, inform them everything that they need to know. If they agree to it, then you can send them this support, this healing support. Whereas if you can see that they're reluctant and maybe they just they say yes just to be nice, then don't force it, because basically if they say yes but then deep down inside they don't want to receive it, they themselves are actually blocking out that energy from entering. And so even if you're giving your 100% to send them this energy, they won't be able to receive it fully because they're sort of they resist it. Okay, so just to make sure that both of you are on board with the transmission. Now, for those, for people in your family, because you have a really special connection in terms of energy with them. And so what happened is if you have a family member lives really far away, very, very busy with their life, and if you love them, you want to send them this energy, you can still do that, whether they knows about it or not, whether they like it or not, you can still do that. So for example, you can send it to your child or something like that. But then for people outside of your family, regardless of the situation, could be a friend, it could be a colleague, a neighbor, etc., you need to ask them first. You need to inform them about this before you transmit energy to them. Okay, so there's no exception for the people outside of your family. All right, so that's that on the direct healing. Let's say if I have any more notes that I need to inform you. And also, can I just emphasize and reiterate that if the recipient is not interested in receiving this energy, please do not pressure them to do so. Okay? Please don't, because it is really, really important that they agree to do it with you. Whereas if they don't, and even if you really want to send them this energy, it won't work. So just keep that in mind, particularly for people outside of your family. All right. Now moving on to indirect healing. So we didn't have this in level 1, but we do have it now in level 2. Indirect healing is basically very similar to direct healing. The only difference is that you can transmit energy to people from far away. Okay, so all the steps here, very similar to direct healing. And if you've been using direct healing in level 1, then there's no need to worry about it because you have familiarized yourself with this formula. So I will not go through it step by step anymore because you would know about it already. I went through it extensively in level 1 as well as just now. So the indirect healing, the difference is in the way that you transmit energy. So you can see here that the practice duration is the same. Remember the exceptions with the 0 to 3 years old group. And also the notes here very similar. The only difference here is when you practice the indirect healing, the transmitter will close their eyes, and then the recipient open their eyes, focus on the transmitter's forehead, and visualize receiving the energy to the ailing areas. If there's many, just focus on receiving energy to the ERC and the entire spine. Okay, so that's the only difference. Remember that when you do indirect healing, what you would do is basically the recipient will look at you. Remember that in direct healing, you place your hand on the person's ERC. That means that you're facing their back. But this time around with indirect, basically they will look at you when they receive energy. So there are 3 options in which you can do indirect healing. So the first one is through phones with or without the front camera. So for example, you can do FaceTime, you can do Zoom, or you can just do a normal phone call to transmit energy to the person. And the second option is through an arranged time. So you don't really need a picture for this because certainly if you have been knowing someone or, sort of comfortable enough for them to agree that you can send them this healing energy, then basically you guys can arrange a certain time and you'll let each other know when you will transmit energy so that the other person can receive it. You can make an appointment, okay? It could be due to time zone difference, it could be due to your busy schedule or something like that, which prevents you from, calling each other. And so you don't even have to see each other to send and receive energy. You just need to know the exact time where the transmitter will transmit energy and the recipient will receive energy. Let's say if you want to send energy through an arranged time to a friend, right? Then you would say that, so every day at 8 a.m. I will send energy to you. I will not call you or anything like that. You set an alarm, and right at 8 a.m., that's when you will receive it because I'll be sending it to you. So it works in that way too. Okay, and option 3 is you will send energy through photos, through pictures. So basically you can ask the recipient for a photo of them. This is the case where you're not really familiar with the person. If it's a friend, of course, you know their face, you know what they look like, you don't need a photo. But if it's like a new friend or someone that you barely know, but then their family asks you to send energy to them or that they agree for you to transmit energy to them, and you just know this person, right? You barely know this person, then you can ask for a photo so that you can look at the photo and you transmit energy accordingly. This is also very useful for situations where the person is in a coma. Okay, and of course, when a person's in a coma, then their family needs to contact you. So you don't just come in and transmit energy randomly to people. People do need to give their consent for you to actually reach out to them and send them energy. And in the case where a person's in a coma, then their family needs to give you that consent, and you need to be in contact with them. You need to know exactly what it is that you're doing, and you inform them of the things that you do. And of course, we direct energy through thoughts. So a lot of the time, we don't even need to see each other. We don't need to sort of look at each other to send and receive energy. Okay, so that's the amazing thing about this. And of course, when you use one of these options here, through phone calls, through arranged time, through pictures, basically you will still go through all of these steps from 1 to 4. Okay. And remember that for the most part, when you get to the last step, it's usually an ongoing action. Okay, so for example, here at level 4, sorry, not level 4, step 4 is that the transmitter continuously transmit energy from the brain of the transmitter into the recipient's ERCs continuously. So it means you would do that all the way until the alarm rings. You'll continue to transmit energy. So don't just recite that in your head and leave it there. You recite it in your head, and then you have to actively direct that energy, you channel that energy. Okay. Now this is an interesting one. This is the encouraging family formula. So let's go through this first, and I'll give you some tips on how to effectively practice this. Step 1, receive cosmic divine light, new era energy, level 2 frequency band, encouraging family frequency. Step 2, receive energy into the brain of the transmitter. Receive first time, receive second time, receive third time. 3 to 5 seconds of delay in between each time. Step 3, send energy from the brain of the transmitter, so that's your brain, into the recipient's brain. Send first time, send second time, send third time, 3 to 5 seconds of delay in between. And then step 4, send encouraging messages to the recipient's brain. Keep transmitting messages continuously over and over until alarm rings. Practice duration 5 minutes, 30 seconds, 1 time a day per person. Now, you can only use this for family members on both sides, and those who have a close and direct relationship with you. So for example, your parents, your in-laws, your co-worker, but not every co-worker, only those who have close and direct relationship with you. And of course, you cannot just randomly encourage people. So do keep that in mind and do the right thing so that it can be effective. If you don't do it correctly, you might feel a headache. That energy would come back to you, and you won't be able to send it properly. Now, it is possible to encourage many people in one session if transmitting a common message. So for example, you have 2 kids and both of them are obsessed with gaming to the point where it really disrupt their routine, and to the point where it really affects the academic results at school, and to the point where they start to, I guess, display aggression, okay, when the game is taken away or something like that, starting to have really challenging behaviors. So in those cases, if it happens to both kids, then you can do just 1 encouraging session, and then you send the same message to both kids. All right. Now, in the case where you have 2 kids, for example, and one of them's obsessed with gaming, the other ones have a, let's say, really unhealthy eating habit or something like that, or maybe they smoke excessively, drinking excessively, then of course, then the encouraging message will be different for the 2 of them. So that means you will need to do 1 separate session for the one who's obsessed in gaming, and then another sessions for the ones who have drinking problems or like smoking problems or whatever. Okay, so it depends on the content of the encouraging message that you will then be a little bit more flexible in terms of how you will practice this formula. If the message is long, you can write it down and repeat it over a period of days. And also remember that it's not that you do it once on the person and then it works. Sometimes it takes days, sometimes it takes weeks, months, or even years. So it depends on the situation, depending on the person, as well as depending on how well you can transmit this, because this formula requires you to have the frequency that we've talked about, to have the core elements of love and morality, as well as to be able to support yourself first in all of the formulas that we've talked about before you can actually come out to send encouraging messages to the person. When performing this formula, you can open or close your eyes as the recipients will not be sitting in front of you. So basically, when you practice this, you don't want to tell the recipient. You just do it silently in your own time. Because what happened is this formula is usually used in situations where you can no longer talk to the person. So let's say if your child's having some really challenging behaviors, and if you talk to them and they're willing to change and they're making progress, then perhaps there's no need to use this formula. But in cases where it's very, very challenging, or even with your partner being very abusive or something like that, being really difficult, having really challenging behaviors, and find it difficult to cope with a certain addiction or something like that, then you can use this formula because you've tried talking to them and there's no use, and it may also put you in a very difficult situation as well when you try to talk to them. So that's when you will use this formula and help that person to cope, to change their behavior. So examples of the messages that you can send, it's, for example, about moral qualities, about love, about fairness, about being more conscious and take good care of their health, to quit smoking, quit drinking, quit playing video games excessively, etc. And it can only be effective if the transmitter has achieved the 5 minutes and 30 seconds of warmth during the stem cell stimulation formula. Okay, so that's the notes for you. That's really, really important. Now, your message, of course, needs to be consistent, and the content needs to be the same whenever you encourage them. For example, you try and encourage them about one thing, about one problem, then you need to repeat it all the way until you can see that there are changes. Okay, and then after that, after you see the changes and they persist, so then after that, if there's another problem, you will then change your message to match that other problem, to then encourage them, to continue to encourage them to change that behavior. And of course, I need to repeat this again, do not tell the person that you're using this sometimes when they're in a very difficult situation. And when people really need help, they feel vulnerable. They feel like maybe you're judging them. They can feel, a lot of really conflicting emotions. And so you don't need to tell them about this. You just support them silently. Okay. And of course, the person doesn't need to sit in front of you, because you're just going to sit somewhere by yourself and you practice this formula silently. And also, when it comes to the tones of voice, when you use to, in your head, that is, to encourage a person, it needs to be loving, needs to be understanding, and you need to show that you empathize with the person. Do not, basically come in having really aggressive tones of voice all of a sudden and try to command the person to do this or that, etc. It won't work that way. And probably if you do that, you will feel like you have a headache, because the energy that you're trying to send, you can't send it, and it basically comes back to you. Also, you cannot transmit message to encourage someone to do the things that you say, to basically take advantage of them, or messages that are really invasive or have ill intention. Okay, once again, that won't work, and it will come back to you. So that's the amazing things about this energy. Okay, because this is the energy of love and moral values, so you won't be able to use it for ill intention. Okay, so This is the hand positions for deafness, to support people with deafness. And basically what you would do is you put your two hands on both ears, fingers on the earlobes like this. And basically what you would do is you will use the direct healing formula. Okay, and this only work for direct healing. Basically, you need to be there with the person to place your hand like so. Remember that the standard hand position would be on the ERC, but then if they have deafness, any hearing impairments, etc., then this is how you put your hands to support that very specific condition. Practice durations right here on the right corner. And for yourself, oops, sorry. So for yourself, that is for another person. But for example, you have that condition yourself, then the way that you would do it is basically you can't really do this because it's just really awkward. So you would do this instead. You place your hand very gently, your fingers very gently to your own ears, and you would use the self-healing. And that is for yourself. And then for other people, it is this particular hand position here. This is the hand position to support all vision impairments, eye-related condition. Okay, so basically you will put your hand like so, and your fingers touching basically near the person's temples, near the end of the eyebrows. Okay, like so. This is the temple right here. This is how you will place your hand, and be very careful, be very gentle. And certainly read all of the notes. Now, how about for yourself? Because of course, once again, you can't do this for yourself. It's a really awkward hand position for yourself. So for yourself, you place your hands on your brow bones. So you put your hand like this, okay, like this on the brow bone, like this, okay, for both eyes. Or if you only have issues on one eyes, but still, because it looks weird to just do this, and so do that, okay? And also be very, very gentle around the eye areas. The next one, this is hand position for all of the nervous system of the brain. Okay. And basically at the beginning, you put your two hands on either side of the brain like this. And then after 2 weeks or a month, then you would change it. One hand's on the brain, the other hand on the ERC. Now, whatever it is that you do not put your hand on top of the person's head. See how this hand positions? We only place it on either side of the head. So make sure that you do that correctly. Do not put your hand on the top of the person's head. Now, it said that after 2 weeks or a month, change your hand position to this one. But then really, in reality, you need to look at people's progress. So it could be that you only see major progress after a month and a half, depending on the person's severity as well. And so you can be a little bit more flexible in terms of that. Or if you're confused about it, always reach out to us, because sometimes case by case scenario is very different. So we're happy to guide you through. Okay. All right. Okay, going through these notes here, really important. So for level 2 participants, you will practice 2 formulas for yourself every day. They are the stem cell stimulation formula and the self-healing formula. You can practice them continuously or 1 or 2 hours apart, depending on your schedule. Only level 2 students who have graduated from level 1 and receive activation from level 2 can practice these formula. The remaining formulas are the healing for others, as well as the encouraging family. You can use it in case of helping others as needed. Practice requires full concentration for 5 minutes and 30 seconds. If you're distracted for more than 30 seconds, don't count that practice. Reset the timer and start again. And when we say distracted, we mean when your mind starts to wander off somewhere else, when you start to think about other things. Okay, whereas, for example, if you're in the middle of practice and then you cough or you sneeze, that doesn't count as distractions. Okay, you can just go on. But if your mind starts to wander off somewhere else, you're thinking about another person, you're thinking about another situation, you're thinking about what's having for dinner, and if that happens more than 30 seconds, then you need to restart. Because of course, as I've said, we use our thoughts to direct this energy. So when you're thinking about something else, basically you stopped directing that energy because your mind is occupied by other things. So make sure that you do that correctly. You choose a quiet place to practice. Keep your eyes open, but of course you can blink, okay? And choose a focus point or object if you need to, if you're still in that process of training yourself how to focus. Avoid using fan or AC blowing directly in your body because you will not feel the warmth of energy. Student needs to practice the formulas accurately every day, keeping good moral values, the 5 forms of love, and always maintain the +1 - frequency to receive great results. When you practice the stem cell stimulation formula, and the entire spine feels warm for 5 minutes and 30 seconds continuously, then you only need to practice it once a day. But then if you practice it and then it doesn't feel warm, or maybe it feels warm in parts only, then you can practice for a second time and a third time. So basically up to 3 times maximum in a row. And or maybe 1 or 2 hours apart, depending on you. And you should practice this formula at least 6 hours before going to bed, because late practice can actually lead to excess energy, causing difficulty sleeping. And when it comes to self-healing formulas, healthy or mildly ill people need to practice self-healing once a day. In case of severe disease, practice twice a day. All healing, including self-healing, as well as receiving healing from another person or maybe from Mr. Lay, should be spaced 6 hours apart. In case of emergency, you feel fatigue, discomfort, want to faint, you can practice self-healing right away, and there's no need to wait for 6 hours. Now, when you practice the stem cells formulas and you accidentally practice it a little bit too close to bedtime, and then you find that it's very difficult for you to fall asleep with the excess energy, then what you would do is remember the breathing techniques that I told you about. You breathe in through your nose 3 seconds, and then you breathe out through your mouth for 6 seconds. So short inhale, long exhale, you do that 3 times, and then you wait for 5 minutes, and then do it another 3 times, wait for 5 minutes, so you can do that 3 times, okay? As in 3 rounds. And usually people will be able to fall asleep after the first or the second round. Okay. All right, so now I will go ahead and show you these demonstration video on how to receive the energy activation. We have completed all of the theory, all of the formulas. I hope that it has been very clear for you as to how to practice the formula. Reach out to us if you have any question, okay? It's always better to ask your question rather than assuming. So now I will send you the activation for level 2 energy frequency. So basically what you would do is you will look at my forehead, you visualize energy going from my forehead into your brain, and continuously doing that all the way until I say alarm rings. Okay, so imagine that this is you and you look at me and you visualize energy going from my forehead into your brain, and it stays in your brain. You don't have to direct it anywhere else. Just keep it in your brain and continuously receiving it. Okay, don't stop until I say time's up. Okay. All right, so let me have a look here. All right, so I will set my timer to 1 minute and 30 seconds. If you experience any technical issue, for example, all of a sudden you can't see me anymore, then what you will do is you continue to receive this activation because I'm still transmitting it. And you can estimate the 1 minute and 30 seconds, and then you come back to practice the formulas together afterwards. Okay, so this is level 2 energy frequency activation. Those of you who are in level 3, 4, and 5, please look away. Okay, this is not for you. This is for level 2 participant. Those of you who have not completed level 1 before, please look away as well. This is only for those who have completed level 1 and now you're ready for level 2. And those of you who are in level 2 and you're still in level 2, you haven't proceed to a high class level, then you can receive this activation. That's fine. Okay, so 1 minute and 30 seconds. Level 2 energy activation. Let's get started. All right, so now let's practice the stem cell stimulation formula together. I will read it out to you, okay? And I will also leave this formula on the screen like this so that you can just recite along in your head. We'll practice it so that you understand the pace of how to practice it. I will set my timer to 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, let's get started, everyone. Step 1, receive cosmic divine light, new era NLG level 2 frequency band. Stem cell stimulation frequency. Recite silently once. Step 2, receive energy into the brain. Receive first time. Receive second time. Receive third time. Step 3, send energy from the brain into the ERC. Send first time. Send second time. Send third time. Step 4, continuously direct energy into the brain to the ERC and continue sending it from the ERC down the entire spine to the coccyx. Continuously support the energy, maintain the warmth for the entire spine to stimulate stem cells until alarm rings. Okay, and we have completed the practice together. So congratulations everyone on completing level 2. And I will send you the formulas on our Telegram groups. So I'm just going to show you very quickly these QR code. So basically, if you have completed level 1 before, then you're already in this group because these groups are for level 1 and 2 participants. So the first one you have is the general notification channel. And then in the middle there, you have the channel for level 1 and 2. That's where you will receive announcement, posts, etc. And then the last QR code is the chat group for level 1 and 2 participants. So you can actually ask your question on there. All right, so thank you everyone for participating in today's class. On behalf of all NLG participants, I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Lay and of course the Outer Space Civilization for giving us this energy source. And thank you for everyone for participating. And also just a reminder for you that if you receive energy activation, or when you practice and you still feel really sleepy, that means you're lacking in energy. Now, the first thing is, of course, to keep practicing, and that will improve. And the second thing is looking at adapting a more healthy, balanced routine. Okay, and for all of the, for example, when you try to give support healing for yourself, let's say you have a hearing impairment, and so after you do that, you do have to wait for 6 hours until you can use the normal self-healing for for other parts of your body or something like that. So if you're confused about that, make sure that you send us your question. Okay. All right, so thank you everyone once again, and I hope to see you in our future classes. We will post our schedule for the next level 1 and 2, probably after this month, after June, and hopefully that we'll be able to put out more classes for everyone. And if you have friends and family who want to do NLG, make sure to introduce it to them and send them our YouTube and Facebook. All right, thank you everyone, and I'll see you later.